Thank you. I am Susan Arnett. I'm a criminal defense lawyer, recently retired from the Public Defender's Office, and I teach at the Richardson School of Law at the University of Hawaii.
My name is Andy Levy. I'm a trial lawyer from Baltimore, Maryland, and I also teach at both of Maryland's law schools, both the University of Maryland and the University of Baltimore.
And good afternoon, everybody. My name is Anthony Miller. I am an alumni of the program myself, and I've been working as a coach and coordinator in the state of Nevada for the last 10 years. And I'm really excited to be here as a judge at the national competition for the first time this year. Thank you for being here.
Please introduce yourselves and your teacher.
Good afternoon, judges. We are Unit 4, and we will be discussing how the values and principles embodied in the Constitution shape American institutions and practices. We would like to thank you all for being here. We would also like to thank our coaches, Karen Sung and Bob Van Brocklin, as well as our teachers, Sadie Adams, and our mentor, Eli Kruger. Hi, my name is Chloe.
My name is Della.
I'm Felix.
I'm Mason.
And my name is Sophie. We are ready for your questions.
Thank you. It would be inconsistent with the constitutional separation of the executive and legislative powers to let the prerogative, pardon power, be exercised by the latter. What were the framers' reasons for giving the president the pardon power, and do you agree or disagree with them? According to the framer James Wilson, if the president abuses the pardon power, he can be impeached and prosecuted. Do you agree with Wilson? Why or why not? In your opinion, what constitutes high crimes and misdemeanors? Please begin.
In Federalist 74, Hamilton noted that without exceptions to commute criminal sentences and issue pardons, criminal justice in the United States would be inequitable and unfair.
The founders agreed with Hamilton and delegated the pardon power to the president. Among the reasons were to promote efficiency and avoid separation of powers conflicts. And so, despite their strong distrust of a powerful executive with unchecked powers, the founders delegated the pardon power to the president alone.
In doing so, they avoided assigning the pardon power to the legislative branch, which they felt should not both enact and administer criminal law. They also opposed giving the pardon power to the judicial branch, which they felt should not both sentence criminal defendants and then pardon and commute those same sentences.
Many presidents have used the pardon power to take broader actions in the national interest. In 1974, for example, Gerald Ford pardoned ex-President Richard Nixon to avoid putting the country through a prolonged criminal trial of an ex-president. In 1945, Harry Truman issued Presidential Proclamation 2676, which granted pardons of prior federal crimes to all World War II veterans.
With respect to whether abuse of the pardon power may be addressed through impeachment or prosecution, we disagree with founder James Wilson. Article 2, Section 4 authorizes Congress to impeach and convict for treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. It is unclear whether an abuse of the pardon power is an other high crime or misdemeanor because this term is left undefined.
A case for abuse of the presidential pardon power would need to be based on new or existing statute criminalizing such abuse. The constitutionality of such a law would undoubtedly be questioned under the principle that a statute cannot limit a constitutional power. In Schick versus Reed and Ex parte Garland, the court struck down such statutes.
Frankly, we do not believe impeachment is a practical course to check presidential power. In our 232-year history under the Constitution, no president has been impeached and convicted. The reality of modern American politics is that with a highly partisan and closely divided Congress, it is nearly impossible to impeach a president. Donald Trump's January 2021 impeachment conviction vote, which fell 10 votes short of the 67 votes needed for Senate conviction, was the closest and most bipartisan presidential conviction vote since Andrew Johnson's in the 1860s.
In an effort to define high crimes and misdemeanors, we looked at past presidential articles of impeachment, except for the 2021 presidential impeachment proceeding, which was limited to incitement of insurrection. Articles of impeachment for Andrew Johnson, Richard Nixon, Bill Clinton, and Donald Trump all had some abuse of power claims. None resulted in conviction. We thus doubt an abuse of pardon power would result in conviction absent greater clarity in the Constitution about whether that abuse is an impeachable offense.
In Federalist 65, Hamilton wrote that a president can be impeached for any political offense that proceeded from the abuse or violation of some public trust. That no longer seems to be the standard for impeachment conviction. It is thus unclear what conduct, other than treason and bribery, is impeachable conduct.
To eliminate this uncertainty, we believe high crimes and misdemeanors should either be defined in the Constitution or authorized by the Constitution to be defined in statute. In developing such an amendment, Congress should also consider whether to establish a legislative check on the exercise of the pardon power. Thank you. We are ready for your questions.
You said that you believe the framers gave the sole pardon power to the president because the legislative branch was making the laws, so shouldn't be involved in pardoning violations of them. The judicial branch sentenced for criminal activity, so again, shouldn't be involved in pardoning. But I'm wondering now what you would suggest as a limitation on the presidential pardon powers to correct what you've described for us as abuses of the pardon power. Would you involve either one or both of these branches of government? And for example, if the legislative branch defines high crimes and misdemeanors, wouldn't the judicial branch then be tasked with interpreting them? And how does that keep with what the framers intended?
Well, one possible check on the president's pardon power is a legislative confirmation vote of a pardon. This was something that the Anti-Federalists argued for heavily, and it was also seen in state constitutions prior to the ratification of the Constitution.
An additional check to potentially prevent abuse of the pardon power would be not allowing pardons to occur 30 days before someone leaves office. We've seen with presidents such as Bill Clinton and Donald Trump that a lot of their questionable pardons came near the end of their presidency when campaigning and reelecting was no longer a concern.
Additionally, we could impose a sort of consequences on the president for when they abuse this power, such as restricting funding to the executive branch.
Currently, there are already some potential checks on the pardon power on the way. Congress has in the works several acts, including the Protecting Our Democracy Act, which would attempt to not only prevent the president from self-pardoning, but also force the president and their administration to provide information on a pardon within 30 days to Congress.
Is that constitutional?
It would definitely be questioned because of Supreme Court case rulings such as Ex parte Garland. But nevertheless, we are still seeing legislative action attempted to be.
I'm sorry. And what did Garland hold?
Garland held that a statute cannot limit a constitutional power.
So doesn't that kind of, that's sort of not without, that's not ambiguous, right? Does that mean that Congress can't legislate at all in the sphere of pardon?
Well, we still have seen that other Supreme Court case rulings have limited the pardon power. And I think in the modern day where there has been a rise in the abuses of the pardon power, the question of legislation being brought up should still be an option for the Congress.
So what's the best you can say about the pardon power? Does it fulfill any of the aims of the founders?
Well, in Federalist 74, Hamilton noted that the pardon power is extremely important because, as he quoted, it can restore tranquility to societies and individuals. And we can see that President Obama gave amnesty to thousands of people enduring unfair sentences. So this is one very positive thing that we have seen coming out of the pardon power.
Another example of a pardon would be President Andrew Johnson's amnesty to ex-Confederate soldiers, which possibly prevented a country or our country from being crippled again when trying to actually convict all of these ex-Confederates.
Or you could say that it was the first nail in the coffin of Reconstruction.
Yes, some argue that.
Andrew Johnson's furthering of the pardon came after Lincoln's similar pardon. Former President Johnson's simply extended that pardon to cover more individuals.
Additionally, though this was a controversial pardon, the aim of it, and as what some view as a positive, clearly shows that it was created for the public trust, which was the purpose of the creation of the pardon power in the first place.
One final good example was when President Harry Truman pardoned prior crimes of all World War II veterans.
I just ask, what about the Kim Kardashian pardon by President Trump? Do you think that that was in the keeping of the spirit of the pardon power as it was envisioned or not?
I absolutely think it was. Donald Trump pardoned a woman who endured unfair sentences, and this woman was lobbied by Donald Trump, but was lobbied by Kim Kardashian, pardon me, but it was still a successful pardon, and she had endured unfair sentencing.
The founders never intended for people to not be allowed to recommend pardons to be given to the president for their consideration. However, there has been some speculation that money has exchanged hands related to who former President Donald Trump should have considered for a pardon, and this is not acceptable.
How would you compare the president's pardon power to that of state governors? Obviously, which they're different powers in each individual state. But do you think that there is like a better model in the states, or do you think that perhaps state governors shouldn't have any pardon power? It should all be federal, or how does that kind of get involved in this?
In Oregon, the governor has the power to grant pardons. However, this must be confirmed by the state legislator. Although this would certainly provide checks on, if this was applied to the national government, although this would certainly provide checks on the president, it would also make for a much slower and more difficult use of the pardon power.
Additionally, it is important that the pardon power exists at both a state level and a federal level, because a presidential pardon only pardons one of federal crimes.
Adding on to my teammates, the governor in Oregon has the power to pardon in Article 5, Section 14 of the Oregon Constitution.
And our Governor Craig Brown has successfully used her power to pardon recently in 2020 in pardoning someone who was recommended through the Oregon Innocence Project, a person who was deemed innocent for a crime he was convicted of.
In that case, Felix, do you think that that should have been done through the judicial system? I mean, the judicial system decided that somebody was guilty, right? Jury of their peers, and then the president or the governor alone decides, well, we have enough evidence. This person wasn't guilty. It's obvious. Let's just pardon them. Do you think that that is an appropriate check on judicial power, or do you think that there should have been a push to retry have a retrial there?
In this case, it was an appropriate check because the person who was pardoned had already been convicted 11 years ago. And since then, the person who actually had testified against them, saying that they were sexually abused, came out and clearly said that they were not telling the truth in this scenario. And so it would have caused, may I finish my thought?
Yes, please.
It would have caused harm to actually retry the case. It would have taken a lot of time. And this person was able to be quickly pardoned and remove the sex offender name off their record.
Great. That's a great example. Thank you. Okay, great job, guys. Excellent. Susan, do you want to
I thank you very much. I'm trying to give you a clapping hand emoji. I thought it was a very good initial presentation. Obviously, you all participated in it. You spoke about the historical basis of the pardon power and why it was accorded to the president alone. You indicated in response to the question asked a very direct answer of disagreeing with Wilson's point and why. I think you're the first team I've seen today that used a specific example of your own state, which I thought was very helpful. It was not only, I mean, you raised the issue that in Oregon, they do have to get Senate approval. And my question was, well, yeah, have they ever gotten it? And then you answered that without having to ask it with the Innocence Project example, which you clearly were informed on and, you know, could answer further questions about. So very nicely done, very nicely done.
Yeah, I thought you guys did an excellent job. I think your examples were wonderful, especially your examples of usage in your own state of Oregon. I really appreciated that. And that last example, even when I pushed back on you, you gave a great succinct response on why this wasn't appropriate usage and what the cons of retrying this would be and how long it would take, and it would be expensive. And this person would spend more time suffering when it was very obvious, you know, before he's released. I love that. I thought that overall you guys gave really good examples of both the positive and negative usages of this and had a lot of nuance. I loved when pushed by Andy on ex parte Garland being able to explain what that meant. I definitely would have liked to have time to explore that even more, because there's definitely some contradictions there. And I don't think that you guys made any arguments that were factually wrong, but it did sound like you disagreed a little bit with the way that this has been applied by the courts, or you wish that we could do something differently. And I would have liked to hear how we could do that within the current system. We'd likely have to amend the Constitution, because ex parte Garland does seem to contradict some of the proposals that you would like to see happen. And I would have liked to explore that more. I think you did a great job.
So boy, I agree. I think that you guys were as good as we've heard today, at least from my little corner of the world here. I don't think we've heard about President Truman's pardon of the World War II veterans. You even had the executive order number, which was a nice little sort of debating chip. I also I thought that the reference to Oregon was very appropriate and relevant, and you seem to know. I guess actually this is not just limited to that answer. Every time you were pushed, you were up to it. You were not. These weren't just a bunch of talking points. But when you were, whether it was Garland, I thought, and on the Oregon example, but I thought really impressive to me actually was when I made my snide comment about President Johnson and Reconstruction. I don't know if it was Chloe, I don't know who came right back and said, well, it was really just a continuation of Lincoln's order, which was brilliant. I mean, that is just exactly what we look for. And to me, it just showed a real depth of historical understanding, which is, there is nothing harder in what you're doing today than the ability to come up with an answer like that when pressed on a talking point. So, boy, kudos to you guys, your teacher, your parents. You really did yourselves proud today, I thought.
I absolutely agree. I think we all do. And these are really hard concepts. I tell my friends what the debate topics are, and they look at me like I'm crazy. You know, high school kids are going to talk about this, and you do, and you're erudite and informed and articulate about it. Very good job. Good luck with the rest of the competition.
Hear, hear.
Congratulations.